Greetings fellow gorehounds and welcome back to another Blood Splattered vlog. So it turns out, despite October being the one month of the year I should probably release the most content, it's also the part of the year in which so much stuff is happening in my life that it's always hard to release any content. So because of this, I only released a couple vlogs last month and didn't get a chance to work, at all on any Blood Splattered Cinema episodes. Which is why there was a lot of vlogs with me sitting down with Count Jacula, because those don't require a whole lot of editing. They're a lot easier to put together. It's just us sitting there and having a conversation. But finally October is over, and I did see a lot of horror movies last month that I wanted to vlog but didn't get a chance to, so I'm gonna do a couple catch-up vlogs to get those out. Now the first of the horror movies I saw last month but didn't get a chance to vlog was Happy Death Day, the latest movie by Christopher B. Landon, the director of Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which was an extremely underrated horror movie that I thought was really fun and absolutely enjoyed, even though most of my fellow critics despised it from beginning to end. But it's okay, I'm the horror guy. I'm used to the movies I love not being appreciated by the masses at large. So naturally, when I found out that his next horror movie was going to be a fun horror comedy in the vein of Groundhog's Day, but as a slasher movie, I was fucking excited. I mean, yeah, it's a premise we've seen a million times. Just about every TV show of the last 20 years has done some sort of Groundhog's Day themed episode, with a really awesome example being Supernatural's Groundhog's Day episode, which is one of my favorites ever put to television. But that's besides the point. The point is, this is a really overdone concept, with one exception. I've never actually seen this concept done as a slasher film. And when you think about it, it's actually kind of perfect for a slasher film, because instead of having a serial killer that goes around killing a whole bunch of unsuspecting teens, you have a serial killer who keeps repeatedly killing the same person over and over again, and them trying to figure out why they're trying to kill them, as well as how to stop it. And in my opinion, that's a really fun twist on a really overdone concept. Now on the downside, I was a little worried going into the movie because I knew going in that it was PG-13, and since it was supposed to be a slasher movie, that's usually a red flag. But I'm happy to report that even though I think the movie would have been better if it were a hard R, you actually don't notice the PG-13ness for most of the running time. Because given the fact that it's got this Groundhog's Day premise, that means every time the person's about to get killed, they end up just waking up and you don't notice that there was no bloodshed. Now there is a little bit of bloodshed, but definitely not the kind you would see in, say, a hard R slasher film like The Prowler. But at the same time, the movie doesn't feel watered down. There's only a few moments where it really shows its rating. For example, there's one moment where she wakes up and repeats a day completely naked, and the fact that you don't see any of the nudity is really noticeable given that this is a slasher film. But even so, it's not as egregious as, say, The Final Girls being PG-13, because that movie specifically was supposed to be a homage to 80s slasher films, which were almost entirely hard Rs. Anyway, so yeah, it turns out the rating is not as much of an issue as I thought going into the movie, and it turns out that the movie itself is actually way better than it has any right to be. The lead actress is really fucking strong. She gives a fantastic performance, and you can't help but get endeared every time she does a little micro expression. Like, I don't know what it was about this actress. She was just so good at doing just these little tiny expressions, these little tiny changes between every time she woke up that completely progressed the story in a way that wouldn't have been there if it was a lesser actress. And I don't know if anything I just said made any sense, but it's the only way I can think of to describe it. And on top of that, the base Groundhog's Day story of an asshole repeating a day over and over again and learning to be less of an asshole really works in this instance. Except instead of some grown-ass man that's a jerk, in this instance it's actually a sorority girl. And she starts off as the typical judgmental and really bitchy sorority girl we see in these kinds of movies. But as the movie progresses, we learn that she actually has way more layers than that. She's actually way more of a three-dimensional person. And the sorority girl facade that she puts on is actually her shield from the world, because she's actually really angry and broken inside. And she's angry and broken for reasons that I'll go into when we get to the spoilers. And even though for the most part the writing is very by the numbers, it actually hits all these points very well, and so does the actress's performance. And I know for me personally, I kind of love the story of the asshole who has this person near them that sticks by them even though they're an asshole, but they don't really realize has been there the whole time. And then over the course of a story realize that, oh shit, this person's been here the whole time, and oh my god, am I falling in love with them? That's a story that happens in the original Groundhog's Day, and it also happens here in a very teen movie way, but I still liked it. And I've always kind of personally appreciated that story because I've always kind of felt like I've been the friend of that kind of asshole, personally. And who knows, maybe even sometimes I've been that asshole. I mean, I'm sure I'm no saint. So yeah, that aspect of the movie I actually personally related to, and I also kind of personally related to the inner strife that she's going through over the course of the movie that's underneath everything that's happening. But once again, I'll get into that when we get to the spoilers. Anyway, yeah, Happy Death Day gets a full endorsement from me. It's a lot of fun. It's not one of my favorite movies of the year, but it's certainly a good time at the movies. And so while I'm not sure if the movie's still in theaters, when this movie hits home video and on demand, you should definitely check it out. It is definitely worth the price of a rental. And speaking of which, if there happens to be some sort of Amazon pre-order link, I will provide that in the description below. Unless the movie's already out, in which case I will provide the link to buy it below. And I think it is finally time that we move on to the spoilers. So, let's do that. Here are the spoilers. Alrighty then, so because I saw this movie a couple weeks ago, my memory on everything that might have happened, like the little details, might be a little bit fuzzy. But I still remember the overall series of events that happened over the course of the movie, so I'm going to try to go over those. But basically, this movie opens up with the girl, Teresa, aka Tree, waking up in some random boy's dorm room. And it's obvious she had some sort of crazy night on the town and ended up sleeping with some random guy, and oh geez, is it like one of those dorky kids? Oh no, that's not good for my reputation. Oh shit, you better not tell anyone that we did this. And so then she's a complete bitch to him, and then leaves the dorm room, and then proceeds to go through a series of events that she will repeat every time she wakes up in the movie, with the main minor change of the series of events being her reactions to it every time. So for example, she leaves the dorm room, she walks along the campus, she runs into some people, she sees some things like a car alarm going off, and the first day she's paying no mind to any of it. She's just kind of sleepwalking through the day because it's just a normal day in her life. Oh yeah, she woke up with a random guy, and yeah, she's kind of a bitch and dismisses everybody. And then of course the second time it happens, she's going through it going like, wait, hold on, this all happened again, am I having deja vu? But she's not totally convinced that she's repeating the same day again. She just assumes that everything that happened was a dream and that somehow, like, she's just imagining it. But then, of course, by the third and fourth day, she's like, oh shit, this just keeps happening. This is the same day over and over again. And then we get a montage of her trying to figure out who's been killing her each time and yada yada yada. But anyway, the point is, here's the series of events that she repeats every day. Wakes up in a dorm room, is a dick to the guy in the dorm room and leaves. Walks along campus and is a dick to everyone she encounters along the campus, including people like trying to ask for charity, or trying to get her to sign a petition for some important issue, or a bunch of the frat boys that are doing some sort of hazing ritual, as well as a couple that's making out in the grass and the sprinklers turn on, forcing them to vacate the premises. And eventually she runs into her boyfriend and then completely dismisses him, and it's very obvious that they're on the outs relationship-wise. And this is definitely a case, given the way she treats him, that you feel really bad for the boyfriend. But even so, you kinda understand her dismissal later on in the movie when you realize what's been going on. So anyway, she goes back to her dorm room, she's a dick to this girl sitting on the steps, and then she runs into one of her sorority sisters, and I think it's kind of like the head of the sorority house. They have this bitchy back and forth over where she was the previous night and whether she's going to attend the sorority meeting. And then she goes upstairs and sees her roommate, who seems to have prepared all this stuff for her birthday, because it turns out it's the main character's birthday. But unfortunately, as per usual, she's a complete dick to her roommate and even throws away the cupcake the roommate gave her for her birthday. Because of course, cupcakes equal carbs. But mind you, over the course of the movie, she cares less and less about the carbs, and it's very cathartic to see her ordering like a gigantic burger and just devouring it. I fucking love that. I like it when a movie takes a character who's extremely uptight over something and helps them loosen up over it. It's just something I really enjoy, because I kind of feel like we all take ourselves way too seriously and end up giving ourselves all these stupid mental hang-ups. And I just kind of like it when people grow to be just a little bit more carefree. I just feel like it's a much healthier way to be overall. But maybe that's just the chill California dude in me. I don't know. Maybe in other places of the world that is not as valued as it is for me. Anyway, she goes to that day's class, and then it turns out that she's having an affair with the teacher of that class. So our main character, Teresa, aka Tree, is actually sleeping with a married man. She's the other woman. And there's even this kind of heartbreaking scene where the wife comes knocking at the door while they're making out, and you realize that, oh shit, she's actually not like a bad person either. The assholes in this scenario scenario are clearly the teacher and Tree herself. And of course, over the course of the story, she starts to realize that that's not a really good thing to do, and she ends up eventually breaking off that relationship. And when she does, the teacher proves himself to be even more of a dick. Anyway, after the revelation that she's having an affair with her teacher, she goes to the sorority meeting at lunch, where she contributes to the shaming and the bashing of one of her sisters over what she decided to get from the cafeteria. Because they're in a sorority, they don't eat carbs or anything fatty or anything seen unseemly. And this is the scene more than any other scene where you really grow to hate the main character in this first run-through of the day. There's just something about the way they treat this other sorority sister that just makes you go like, oh my fucking god, I want you all to die. And I think at the sorority meeting, she also runs into the dork from the beginning of the movie, the guy whose dorm room she woke up in, and he delivers her necklace that she left there. Or maybe it was a ring, I don't exactly remember. I feel like it was a piece of jewelry. But because when he bumps into her, he literally causes like food to splash all over her, she's a complete prick to him once more. And she really doesn't want the sorority sisters to know that she woke up in this guy's dorm room and that she potentially slept with him, so she's just completely dismissive. So anyway, at this point it flashes forward to that night, and that night it turns out there's this giant party happening on campus, which you find out later, surprise surprise, is actually a party for her birthday, but she doesn't realize it yet. And she doesn't actually realize it the first night because she never actually makes it to the party. She thankfully makes it on the second night because she avoids the path she takes the first night, but the first night, on her way to the party, she ends up encountering the slasher killer who ends up fucking stabbing her. But there's actually this really creepy scene where she walks into this tunnel where there's this creepy, like, carousel thing in the middle of the fucking road, and it's playing like creepy children's music, and she's like walking up to it like, what the fuck is this? And the next thing you know, the killer pops up and he's got this baby mask. But here's the thing about the baby mask is actually the mask of the school mascot, and there's millions of copies of this mask throughout the school because it turns out not only is it the main character's birthday, it's also a huge day for the school, and I think it's probably some sort of like an anniversary of the founding of the school, at least I think so. If I'm wrong about that, feel free to correct me in the comment section below with the actual details, but I believe that's what it was. So naturally, the school was handing out all these baby masks, so a bunch of people are running around with these masks. Which of course makes it really hard to pinpoint who the actual killer is. But what I do like about this baby mask is that it actually makes a lot of sense given the story. I mean, narratively it's justified because that's the mascot of this school, but thematically it's justified because it's Happy Death Day. It's about a girl on her birthday having to repeat it over and over again and being killed by a slasher killer. So what is the slasher killer wearing? He's wearing the mask of a newborn baby. Which is why the little carousel thing in the middle of the road doing children's music makes sense thematically as well. Because it's all thematically relevant to the idea of birthday and childhood. And here's also another thing that the writer did that's actually really genius and makes this whole birthday thing come together even more. Because it turns out our main character does not like her birthday, and she's not necessarily old enough to start hating it yet. So the question becomes, why does she not like her birthday? Why is she a bitch to everyone on this one day that's supposed to be a celebration of her? Especially given how self-centered she is. This should be the one day that she fucking thrives. Well, you see, it turns out that her birthday happens to also be the birthday of her mother, who happened to die a few years prior. It reminds her of a relationship she used to have and can't have anymore, and one of the few things that grounded her as a good person. She started taking her anger out on everyone around her, she stopped caring about anybody else, and she stopped liking herself. And on top of that, the death of her mom has caused a friction between her and her father that has never been properly repaired. And in fact, the entire day she avoids her father's calls, even though he's calling her to wish her a happy birthday and to invite her to dinner that night. And this story actually handles that really well, to the point when she actually finally goes to her father's dinner, you actually start to tear up a bit. At least I know I did, when she actually confronts the fact that her mother's dead and actually confronts her father and actually has this nice reunion with him. It's genuinely touching, and you actually find yourself going, oh wow, this character that I despised at the beginning of this movie is growing into a much better person over the course of it, and I actually care about her journey. And I'm caring about her journey in this stupid slasher movie by way of Groundhog's Day. And if nothing else, all the fun aside, all the fun slasher kills, all the cool fucking jokes and humor and yada yada yada, the one reason you should definitely watch this movie is to watch that emotional journey over the course of it. Cause it's extremely fucking well done, and I loved every second of it. Anyway, that's basically the crux of how her day goes each time she wakes up, except there's slight variations based on the changes she makes to try to change her fate. Because once she realizes that she's being killed repeatedly by the same slasher killer, she's basically trying to figure out over the course of the movie who it is. And unfortunately, that's extremely hard because not only is everyone wearing that fucking baby mask, she also has a lot of enemies. But eventually she does figure out that the hospital next to the school actually has been housing this serial killer who was severely injured, so is being taken care of by the hospital. And at some point during the day, this serial killer escapes from the hospital and goes on a minor killing spree. And she suspects that she's one of the targets of this killer, but it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. But I'm not gonna tell you how complicated it is. You're gonna have to find out for yourself when you watch the movie. So I don't care how you have to do it. If you get a chance, check out Happy Death Day. It's a genuinely good slasher movie, and it's fun despite its PG-13 rating. And with that all said, my fellow gorehounds, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so that you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And as always, peace out, and I'll catch y'all later. Probably really soon with another catch-up vlog.